So we talked a little bit about exponential change, and what I want to mention is this year of metamorphosis is a process of transformation, personal transformation. And there are 7 steps. I'm just going to go into it very quickly just to kind of lay the outline of it. But the first one is to be still. To be still, to get centered. Meditation is a way to be still, to go for a walk in nature, to sit by a lake. You don't have to necessarily meditate, but whatever it is, to be still is the first step. It's the cocooning. It's when that caterpillar starts to turn inward. The second step is to surrender to the moment, to surrender the ego, to surrender the, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that, your to-do list, surrender it. So the second step is to surrender. Then the third is then to let go of the anxiety, let go of the ego, the immature ego, to let go of the fears, the doubts, to breathe in and to breathe out and to let go. So the first step is to be still, the second is to surrender, the third is to let go. And then the fourth step, which is the most challenging, is then to open your heart, to open your heart with compassion and caring, like we did in the meditation. You bring that ball of light down into your heart and you think, I care. You open to the compassion and caring, and that opens the heart, the fourth step, to open to new possibilities, to open to your soul, to your heart and your soul and your future self is that fourth step. Well, once you've opened your heart, just to listen to the stillness, to listen to what comes to you, to listen and open up to your soul. The sixth step is then to surrender, which matches the second step, which was to surrender to the moment. The sixth step is to surrender to the divine, to ask for the healing, to ask for the guidance from God, Goddess, all it is, from your soul and spirit. And then the seventh is then, as you've surrendered to the divine, is to let yourself be lifted into the realms of healing, to let yourself feel this expansion of energy in your heart. You can sense that lifting by that heart energy expanding, or sense yourself going up, whatever it is, just surrendering to that light. And that's the process of metamorphosis, from being still to being lifted, from surrendering to the moment to surrendering to the divine, from letting go of your fear and your ego and your anxiety to listening to your soul and spirit. Then to the fourth step is to open, to be in that place of being vulnerable. So I just want to mention that as just kind of an overview. You can use that in your own strategies, but I wanted to bring that into your awareness. Now, in this talk tonight about ideas of what can transform your life, the 5 lessons of transformation is a couple things. What I've learned is when I talk about emotions, and it's not just about expressing your emotions, it's about going into the depth and the intensity of the emotion. Because it's in the depth and the intensity of the emotion that you can find your soul and spirit, where you can find your power, you can find and discover your destiny. You can open up to your inner strength and your creativity. Not a creativity that's the ego's version, but your soul's creativity that is this constant flow from within. And you can tap into, by going into and understanding this level of intensity, you can tap into knowing your purpose in life. And the only way to get there is to go into that dark night of the soul, into going down into the depth, to find that anger, that rage that is blocking you from the potential of your empowered self. Now, one of the things I want to mention here too, the next secret on transformation, is not just going into the intensity, which is so important. When you do that, it's like your energy changes immediately and you never go back to being the same. That's what transformation is. You can't revert and go back. Once you start to come out of that cocoon, it's really hard to tuck yourself back in, no matter how much you want to do it. But this next component of a lesson I've learned about transformation is the relationship between love and fear. Now, when I first got on the metaphysical path, there was a book out that love is letting go of fear. Fear is bad and you should get rid of fear. And if you're a spiritual person, you should never have fear. And fear was the enemy, right? The ego. The fear is your ego. No, it isn't. It's part of the ego, but it's not just your ego. There's going to be fear in this world of duality. Just like there was with the compassion and the hostility, caring is the common core. Well, with love, there's also a duality. And the more you love someone, the more you love something, what increases is its shadow called the fear of losing it. And the ego says, well, if I'm going to risk losing it, I'm too afraid of that. I'll just not love more. I'll just keep the love at status quo. I'll just let my ego be in charge of the love department. But love and fear have this relationship, and when you can open and expand your mind to embrace this changed my life instantly, and it was a key and a lesson of transformation that was so powerful. Now, how does this work? Love and fear. Okay, either or, just like hostility and compassion. No, they're very different, but the key is, if I go into my fear, then I turn away and avoid love. I shut down. But if I can stand in love and face my fear, that light of love, the light of awareness starts to transform the nature of fear. See, fear thrives on ignorance, which means to ignore it. And that's what most people do. They ignore it. They deny it. They discount it. They distract themselves. They keep themselves going on a hamster wheel 90 miles an hour a day, keeping themselves so busy. Well, we've all been forced to slow down, and people's fears have come to the surface. Now, what do you do with it? Do I stand in love? Now, what does that mean, by the way? What does love do? What does love do? Love pays attention to detail. Love pays attention. So if I can turn my attention to my fear, not ignoring it and shoving it down and letting it become part of the collective consciousness, but to bring it up and out and become aware of it and shed my attention upon it, it starts to change. And the second thing that love does is it seeks to understand. What is this fear about? Is this my fear? Is this my child's fear? My adolescent's fear? As Carol said, what is this love all about? Let me seek to understand it. And by the act of paying attention and seeking to understand it, that fear is going to start to change. But why is fear there in the first place? Why would we create this fear of loss? Because without fear, love doesn't matter. Without the fear of loss, it doesn't matter. And spiritual people say, well, I just want to be spiritual and just want to be loving. And yeah, we all are going to die and our body lives on and I'll see you in the next life. It doesn't matter if my partner gets hit by a car. It doesn't matter if they die, because I know we're all going to live. And, that's a lack of meaning. It's a lack of depth. But the truth is, because of the fear of loss, it adds value to the love. When you stand in love and face your fear, that fear turns into value. It turns into meaning. It turns into significance. So I can allow the love to transform the fear and to make love matter. And I can trust that, I can handle fear. I don't have to be afraid of it anymore. And that is a key lesson that transformed my life in so many ways. Because first of all, I didn't blackmail myself to say, well, I shouldn't be afraid. Why? I do value my life. I do value what happens in the world. I do value. So I don't want to hurt people. And I don't want to be part of the pain of the world. And I'm going to allow the fear to be part of the equation so that I'm not shoving it down and contributing it to the collective out there. So that was another lesson, a lesson of love that I've learned. So I've talked about working from the inside out. The transformation always begins from the inside out. It begins by being willing to not only have emotion, but to learn how to express it, to release it, and to face the intensity of those emotions. And then to learn this synergy. The yin-yang symbol is like this black and white, and that's what fear and love is. It creates a synergy. It's not like, okay, well, I'll love sometimes and I'll be afraid sometimes, I'll love it. No, you bring them together when you can. The love is the only way to bring fear into its existence. You can't stand in fear and go towards love. You have to stand in love, to seek, to pay attention, to understand and connect to it. And then when you do, guess what? It's like this yellow ball of light and this blue ball of light come together, and they intermix and they become a green ball of light. They change into value, into worth, into significance, into mattering, and it changes. But as long as I judge, my fears, shouldn't have them, I'm more spiritual, I'm more evolved, or whatever, that's what keeps us separated from it. And that's the fifth and final lesson of transformation, is judgment. I myself, unfortunately, have had a very, very judgmental mind, and I had a very critical dad and very critical parents, both of them, but my dad was very critical, and it hurt so bad growing up because I was different. And I knew I was different compared to my brother, and he was older and I was younger, and I wasn't like him, and I was trying to fit into this family of four, and it was painful. But judgment, and what judgments do is they separate you from feeling the experience. Anything you judge, you separate and push away. And that's why our world, we're judging the Democrats and we're judging the Republicans and we're judging each other and we're judging coronavirus and we're judging we're judging everything because we don't want to feel that uncomfortability of all of it. But again, I'm afraid, right? I'm afraid of what's going on in the world. But if I can stand in love, let go of my judgments and go into the fears, I can transform my relationship to life. Judgments are different than discernment. When your heart is closed and you're in your immature ego, you will judge. When your heart is open and you're aligned with your empowered self, you will discern. Discernment is the light side of judgment. Who am I? I'm the one who gets to decide. Am I going to open my heart or am I going to shut it down and be judgmental? Am I going to separate and isolate and go into alienation or am I going to stand in my power? That dance. So that's the fifth lesson. Fear, judgment, shifting into the feeling, being willing to express your emotions, but also to go into the intensity of those emotions are the 5 lessons that has transformed my life the most. And we've talked a little bit about the 7 steps for metamorphosis, from being still, be still, breathe, connect with yourself. 2nd step, surrender into the moment. 3rd step, let go of the ego's distractions, let go of the fear, enough so that you can open your heart to your soul, open your heart and to listen. 5th step, to your soul, to your spirit, then to surrender to the divine, surrender to God, Goddess, and then to be lifted into the realms for receiving healing. That's the process of metamorphosis. So I've covered those 2 things tonight. Does anybody have any questions so far over what I've covered?